So your child's school started handing out iPads with this thing called MDM, and now suddenly you're faced with a profusion of questions like, will I have a say in what my child can do on this thing? What if I don't want them playing games at certain times? What the heck does profusion mean? Well, let me introduce myself. This is Zach with Jamf, and profusion was on my word of the day calendar today. Apparently, it means an abundance or large quantity of something, like the amount of questions you probably have about Jamf Parent. Hey, look at that. We already checked one answer off our list of questions. Let's keep rolling. At Jamf, we strive to help organizations like your child's school succeed with Apple devices. We know that a contributing factor of that success is giving you the power to decide how that device can be used outside of school. Let's dive in and take a look at the Jamf Parent app to see just how you can take hold of that power. First, let's get the app set up. You'll need to download the Jamf Parent app from the App Store on an iOS or iPadOS device. When you open it for the first time, you'll be walked through a quick setup assistant that will explain the privacy policy and make sure your device has the correct settings turned on for the app to function properly. On each page, we explain why that particular feature needs to be enabled so you know exactly what's happening on your device. Once you've passed through Jamf Parent's setup assistant, you can get started by adding your child's device to your account. Depending on the mobile device management tool that your child's school is using, this process may vary, so pay attention to any special instructions they provide you. Your child's school may have also limited what you're able to do with the Jamf Parent app, so if at any point in this video you don't see a feature that I'm showing, contact your child's school for guidance. If your child's school is using Jamf School or Jamf Pro to manage their devices, they'll either provide you with a username and password, or allow you to manually connect to your child's device with a special code called a QR code that can be scanned, similar to a barcode. Our school district is using Jamf School, and they're going to let me manually connect to my child's device. On my child's device, I'll open the Jamf School student app. Now on my device, I can tap Scan QR Code. I'll need to allow access to my device's camera for this to work, so I'll tap OK in the box that pops up. If my phone is close enough to my child's device, the Jamf School student app will detect that I'm trying to connect, and it'll display a QR code for me to scan. If the QR code didn't pop up automatically, it can be found on the child's device by tapping the gear icon on the top right and tapping Authorize Parent. Then I'll simply position the QR code within view of the camera, and a box will pop up asking me to confirm that I want to manage this child's device. I'll tap Confirm to continue, and then I'll be taken to the home page of the Jamf Parent app. This is the page we should see every time we open the app from now on. If your school happens to be using Jamf Pro to manage devices, then on the child's device you'll find an app called Self-Service. Give that a tap, and you'll see a parent icon in the top right. Tap that icon to bring up the QR code and scan it with your device. Again, depending on the software your child's school is using to manage their device, this process may vary. Always default to any instructions they provide you to get it set up. If you have more than one child with their own device, you can repeat the process we just did by scrolling down and tapping Add Child. Now I know you're thinking, great, now how do I block Instagram? Well, slow down, Sparkplug. We need to learn to walk before we can run. Before you start setting up rules on your devices, you'll want to set up known locations that your child might go so that your rules can take place when they arrive. For example, let's say that every day after school, my child goes over to Grandpa Nelson's house to do their homework before I pick them up and take them home. And I don't want them playing games while they're there since they should be focused on their homework. We'll need to start by letting the Jamf Parent app know where Grandpa Nelson's house is. Let's tap Locations, and then Create Location. First, we just need to name it, so I'll name this Grandpa Nelson's house, and then tap Select a Map Location. Here we can search for an address or the name of a location. I'll put in Grandpa Nelson's address, and then tap it when it shows up. Next, a preview map shows up on the bottom of the screen, showing the address we specified. If we tap and drag on that map, a circle shows up around the address that we can make larger or smaller. This is known as a geofence. It's a threshold that determines whether the child's device is considered at this location. When the child's device crosses that boundary, your Jamf Parent app will know they are at that location, which can then trigger things like device rules, which we'll see in a little bit. The location that your child's device reports is approximate, so to give it a little more wiggle room, we can tap and drag to make the geofence a little bigger. You can rest assured that the Jamf Parent app is the only one with constant access to this location services data. Once the location is set, we can tap the back arrow on the top left and quickly double-check all the information before tapping Save on the top right. Feel free to pause this video here and create more locations you might need, like your home address or a friend's house. Don't worry, I'll wait. Now that I have a location saved for Grandpa Nelson's house, I'll be able to see when my child has been there, and I can create rules that take effect there as well. Speaking of rules, let's learn how to build the second half of my homework rule. Tap the X on the top right of the screen to go back to the home page. From here, if we scroll down, we'll see tiles for every child we have connected. To start creating rules, simply tap on the child's tile to open it up. Up on the top, we see 3 tabs: Allow Apps, Device Rules, and Device. Allowed Apps lets you do real-time restrictions manually on your child's device. For instance, if we tap Enable App Lock, we can choose to only allow our child to use certain apps for a specified period of time. Is it time to read a book? Select whichever app your child uses to read books, set a time limit, and hit Done. Your child's device will now be locked into their book reading app until the time limit is up. Did they need to take notes too? Tap Change Allowed Apps, add whichever app they use to take notes, and hit Done again. Now they'll be able to exit their book reading app, but the only other app they'll be able to use is their note-taking app. If they get done early, just tap Disable App Lock on your device and their device will go back to normal. Maybe there's certain device functionality that you don't want your child to be able to use. Tap Restrict Device functionality to disable things like FaceTime, camera, or iTunes. Or maybe you just want to quickly block all the apps in a certain category, like social media and games. Keep in mind, some of the apps your child uses for homework may fall under these categories, so keep an eye on what you select. Now, if there's one thing I know all parents have, it's copious amounts of free time to spend manually changing rules on their child's devices, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Save yourself some time and automate your child's routine with some device rules. Tap the Device Rules tab and then tap Create Device Rules. Device rules allow you to set restrictions based on certain triggers, like when the child's device enters a location, if the device detects the child is walking, running, or biking, or rules can even be created to take effect just during a certain date and time period. Let's finish up my homework rule from earlier. I'll tap Location from the list, select Grandpa Nelson's house, and tap Next on the top right. Then choose which types of apps should be restricted while my child is at Grandpa Nelson's house. In this case, I'll select Games so my child can't play games during homework time at Grandpa's. Then tap Next on the top right. Now we can choose when this trigger should take effect. Since I only want to enforce it after school, I'll choose Monday through Friday, and I'll set the time frame to begin at 3 p.m. and end at 6 p.m. Then tap Next on the top right. Now I can name this rule and double-check my settings. We can see that I'm blocking games on weekdays from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. and only if the device is at Grandpa Nelson's house. Once all that looks good, I can tap Save on the top right. Now that rule will take effect all by itself when the conditions are met. Play around with more of the triggers and rules to really create a customized routine for your child. Finally, the Device tab simply provides some basic information about your child's device, including a history of when they've entered various locations that you've created. With the introduction of the Jamf Parent watchOS app, the experience gets even easier. Right from your wrist, you can easily select a child's device and toggle app categories and device functionality for on-the-fly management. Well, that about wraps up our journey through the Jamf Parent app. Hopefully this gave you a profusion of ideas on how to interact with your child's device. See how I worked that back in there? If there were any features you saw in this video that you didn't have access to on your device, reach out to your child's school for help. Otherwise, the steps we went over in this video can also be found in the Jamf Parent Guide by tapping the gear icon on the top right and selecting Support Documents. We at Jamf are proud to be working with your school to provide a more engaging and interactive learning experience for your children. And we couldn't be more excited to have you along for the ride. Welcome to the Jamf family. Stay awesome.